Valentin show with our host, Mina Valentin. Mina, how are you? And here we go. One of the craziest topics, I guess, to end the day. And we definitely ending the day with one. And you thought there's not enough content. Not thanks to your research team. I'm basically, today's topic is the hidden world of Regency prostitution, from courtesans to streetwalkers.
To who? Streetwalkers. Okay.
Okay. All right. What were the main classifications of prostitutes during the Georgian and Regency eras, and how did they differ?
Okay. The lowest of the low were they called the two-penny bunters. And those women were pathetic, alcoholics. God only knows what their backstories were, but they would have sex for a pint of wine and a penny. And their sex was always in an alleyway or some was real. And then up from them was the harlots. And harlots, they worked out of some kind of a house or some kind of a body kind of place. It wasn't outside. It wasn't in an alleyway, but it still wasn't good. And then up again were the high-class whores. And that's what they would call high-class whores. And they worked out of a whorehouse or some kind of a body house. Same difference to me, AWDY, body. And then, here's something disgusting, though, about these places where they work, these brothels. They occasionally would get young girls, and a lot of times during that period in London, people were coming into the city to find work. They were coming from the countryside. They were coming from Scotland. They were coming from Wales because of all the gold and glitter they'd heard about London. They get there and they can't find work. And so occasionally the madam would find 5 or 6 young girls, virgins, and then she would get young noblemen, and they would pay to have sex with these young girls. And if they had enough interest, they would allow the older, more established and wealthier men, either tradesmen or noblemen, to come in. They would pay and they could also participate. That's pretty disgusting, really. And then from that were the courtesans, and they were the highest of the high. They could be kept, or they could also work someplace, but they were exclusive, and they could charge any way they wanted to, by the month, by the hour, by the act. And then up from them was the mistress, and they could be given their own townhouse. They could be given servants, carriages, credit to the east. Although when the titled man got tired of them, they might let them stay in the townhouse and sign it over to them. They might let them keep the servants. They might let them keep the carriage. I doubt if they'd let them keep the modiste. But then the woman was in a situation where she couldn't go back into noble society. She didn't really have anything else. So she had to find another protector. And to go from man to man, I guess it was better than a two-penny bunter. But the end result, it was never good. They get to a certain age that nobody was interested in them. And then they'd fall from grace. It was a terrible situation. Some of those women were smart enough to get a contract with their protector before they got into bed. A lot of them weren't that smart.
Okay. So what would you call high-class whores today?
Girlfriends?
You mean mistresses?
Yeah, so of course a mistress. There are still situations where we can find in our society any of these categories of women in prostitution. You can go to some sleazy part of town and there'll be somebody walking the street that will be happy to do whatever you want them to do for very little, if anything. And then there are houses where 4 or 5 women will work out of a house, but It's not classy by any stretch of the imagination. The courtesans, you can probably find that in higher society. And then mistresses, I know that they're around. I've had a few offers, but it's not, if you're madly in love with the man and you allow yourself to be put in a situation where they're just caring for you and coming and going as they please, that couldn't be very satisfying. And if you're doing it for the money, that's not always going to last. So, yeah, they're still around.
Okay. So how did society view prostitution, both as a scandal and as an open secret among the aristocracy?
But it was always looked down on by the women, especially in the aristocracy. It was almost expected that a married man would have a mistress. Honestly, it was expected. 90% of these marriages in the aristocracy were arranged marriages. If they were lucky enough to get a relationship going, that was wonderful. But if not, then the husband would always find someplace else where he could get satisfied. The other point that I want to make about this particular era, you might still find that today, is where the man marries this woman because she's from a good home. She's from the aristocracy. She's got a bloodline. And so she couldn't possibly want to have any kind of sex other than the good old missionary. No oral sex of any kind, no fantasy games, no experimentation at all. And so the husband would go and get those things taken care of through his mistress.
Okay. The best place, and again, is MinaValentine.com to purchase all the books. Give them a call to say, please buy my book. No.
Yes, buy my book. Go to Amazon and look up Mina Valentin. And the first book of the series is The Marquis Seeks His Muse. And it's really good and it's really spicy. I think you'll like it if you like those kind of historical romance novels.
All right. Thanks again, Mina.
Thank you.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Mina Valentine